cloud. I like it. All right, welcome to tonight's royalty movement training. We're talking about financial freedom. We're going to do a little bit of crypto talk along with some ETF talk, because as you know, the royalty movement is all about you getting on track to bettering your finances and moving you down the path to having financial freedom, financial success. And we do this one step at a time. So we want you to understand the power of what you're about to witness, the power about what you're about to experience, and that way you can take it, run with it, and hopefully get some type of results from it. And of course, you got yours truly, the one and only Mr.
and Mrs. Smith. And we are coming to you live, you guys, from North Little Rock, Arkansas, where it still feels like spring in October. That's and right. Your girl is not mad. All right, so tonight what we are going to start off with is what you see on your screen, the personal cash flow plan. We also call this the PCP, AKA the My Econ Bible, okay? Because these 8 steps is what My Econ is all about, especially if you are trying to accomplish financial freedom.
That's right. So I'm gonna make the screen big, turn off our camera temporarily so we can give you what we got. All right, let's go. Let's go into present mode. Boom, make sure you get big on your side.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So as you can see on the screen, personal cash flow plan. I'm gonna tell you how you can access this, so don't even worry about it. You can access not only the slides, but you can also access the PCP. It's a powerful tool, powerful blueprint that you should go about following in order to go through it the My Econ way of hitting your financial goals. And as you can see at the bottom, it says 8 steps to building a detailed plan to create wealth. 8 steps to building a detailed plan to create wealth. Now, I know you may have got access to My Econ or the system due to just wanting to better your credit, but we know that credit is just a piece to the puzzle. We want you to have an overall plan to create wealth. And that's exactly what the personal cash flow plan is. So let's talk about it. Let's educate you on what it is so you can understand it and then use it to your advantage. So right here, I want you to know the goal of this course is to give you a complete step-by-step financial blueprint to follow, which will create income and wealth for you and your family. Many people don't know this, but we all need income for life. No matter how far in the future you can look, you're going to always need some form of income coming in. Most people are hoping it's going to come from their job in the form of a retirement plan or a pension. Sometimes they're hoping it's coming from a 401k. Many times people know that they may end up having to draw Social Security if it's still there. But the fact of the matter is, in many cases, sometimes people retire with those things that are listed, and it's less than what they were actually working during their getting through during their working years. And in many cases, they need more. Sometimes they need to go out and get a retirement job because what they thought was going to be enough wasn't nowhere near enough. Sometimes expenses have gone up. Sometimes their medical bills and expenses have gone up as well. So you have to participate in your own rescue. In other words, you want to be doing something that positions you to get on track with or without the job, the company, the pension plan, the 401k, because sometimes people get let down in those areas. So it's important for you to have a blueprint, a game plan in order to bring it all together. Let's proceed. So what is the personal cash flow plan? The personal cash flow plan is a detailed plan on how to apply discretionary cash flow to your finances each month to attain financial success.
All right, it is an 8-step process that starts with building the foundation and working your way through. You'll see this, guys. Most people stumble because they skip steps. This is very important that you follow it straight through, no matter how long it takes, no matter how long you're on step, 2 or 3, you want to finish that step in its entirety before you go to the next step. All right, you can find the documents in the document center. The document number is 807. If you want to write that down or take a quick screenshot.
Absolutely. And any questions that you have throughout this process, put it in the chats and we'll get to it at the end. That way we can stay flowing through the process. But any questions, we welcome them with open arms, or put them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. Now, let's talk about discretionary cash flow just for a second, because it's a detailed plan on how to apply discretionary cash flow, meaning that's the excess cash flow that you have outside of what has to go towards the mandatory things, like maintaining the household, making sure the kids are good, food, grocery, things of that nature. And my econ specializes in helping you create more discretionary cash flow that comes from you properly correcting your W-4. When you properly correct your W-4, what happens is many people are able to benefit from an increase in pay, meaning they're bringing home more money to the tune of $200 to $800 a month, sometimes more. But this is the thing, that's discretionary cash flow that you could put towards your finances each month to attain financial success. Another way we do it is showing people how to pay less in interest rates by bettering your credit and even qualifying for a lower interest rate altogether by you investing, and then you getting a rate of return on that investment. And another way that I do not want you to sleep on is the opportunity to make money with my econ, because that's money that you didn't expect. Like, that's the extra money for real, and it has no salary cap. You can make as much as you want, or you can do something just to get enough to start putting it towards hitting your goal. So don't sleep on the discretionary cash flow opportunities, because we have about 5 of them that help put more money in your pocket that you can put each month towards attaining financial success. So step 1, let's go.
Step number 1 is to generate cash flow. And guys, make sure you're writing this down. You want to build as much positive cash flow as possible. This is income coming from your job, business income. So coming from your My Econ business or any outside business, maximizing your cash flow via the W-4, AKA giving yourself a pay raise on your job. You should have done that the first 24 to 48 hours of being involved with My Econ. If you have not adjusted your W-4, if you have not given yourself a pay raise on your job, please, please, please reach out to us. This is listed in the 30-day plan, which we send to every single new member. If you need help, if anything is unclear, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. That's going to be your very first return on investment. Okay, you paid to get started with My Econ, get a return on your investment. You can literally do that within your first couple of weeks. You want to minimize taxes. One way is via the W-4, but as you really get engulfed in all of the information that we have in My Econ, you'll learn also how to minimize your taxes in the form of tax deductions, things that you can write off on your taxes during the tax season. But you have to be in motion. You have to actually be building a business and have income to show for it in order to qualify for these things.
100%.
Another thing is minimizing your expenses. Now, this portion of it, most people are kind of familiar with, because it's literally budgeting. Is determining what is a necessity and what's not. What can you cut off, cut back, right? In order to maximize your cash flow. And then the last thing is eliminating debt. You guys, everything above eliminating debt is you maximizing your cash flow. So imagine if you could bring a little bit in from your job, a little bit from business income, grab your pay raise on your W-4, legally minimize your taxes and lower expenses, you could go in on that debt. Let's keep going.
And then when that debt is eliminated, that gives you even more cash flow.
Absolutely.
All from step number 1. So you want to make sure you're doing these things before you proceed into what number 2 really entails. So step number 2, Queen, take this one away. I know you love
All right, it is an emergency fund, you guys, aka a contingency fund, if you believe in the power of words and not speaking that over yourself. All right, this is a bank account with money set aside to cover large, unexpected expenses. Sadly, we know that this is inevitable, all right? Things could be going good, then bam, walk outside and you got a flat tire, right? You literally never know what life may throw at you. This was what your grandma and great grandma, right? Your big mama was trying to teach you about setting money aside for a rainy day. Greg, I see you shaking your head. Always talking about setting that money aside for a rainy day. She may have not known the proper terminology, but she was trying to put y'all on game, all right? This is only used for true emergencies. Budgeted items don't count, okay? It must be liquid, no investments. And this can also be stashed in a municipal bond fund, money market account, or a high yield savings account. And you need to immediately replace it if you use it, All right. Basically, what this is saying, you guys, is you need a stash of money outside of the bank account where you make all of your payments on bills. Okay. Where you got your direct deposit, I mean, not your direct deposit, but you got your auto drafts coming out, your bills, your daily spending or weekend splurging. That's not going to come out of this account. Okay. Your emergency fund is stashed separately, somewhere where you can't easily assess it, but if you need to assess it, you can easily assess it. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. So this is typically a separate savings account. This can also be stashed as listed in the municipal bond fund, money market account, or a high yield savings account. You want it somewhere in the case of an emergency, flat tire, your baby gets sick and you got to miss work. You don't have any more PTO. So that means you missing pay, right? Think of all of those little mini emergencies that will happen and that has happened to you prior, and think about how that situation would have turned out differently if you had money stashed aside for it. The minimum in this step is $3,000. Okay. Do not move on to step number 3 until you've completed step number 2. And you're going to see this in the document when you actually pull the document. We made it all pretty with these PowerPoint slides. All right. It's $3,000. Guys, you want to get that $3,000 as soon as possible. That's why in step number 1, it was all about freeing up and bringing in as much cash flow as you possibly can. It was to prepare you for step number 2. Don't move on to step number 3 until you have that $3,000 set aside.
I love it. Step number 3. You see at the top it says company 401k, 403b, IRA, and SEP. I had it covered up. All right. Take advantage of tax deferred retirement plans. Why is this important? Because tax deferred retirement plans can save you on taxes, minimize your taxes. Of course, get with your tax professional, but a lot of times your contributions to your 401k not only contributes to your future possibility of retirement, but it also lowers your tax liability on your gross income of what you earn that year. That's powerful. Now, we say company 401k because sometimes there's a company match. You see, tax deferred, tax free, that's dealing with the tax obligation or the ability to minimize those taxes. But the company match may be something that the company offers. That's almost like free money. So if they're willing to match up to 6%, just as an example, or dollar for dollar up to whatever that amount is, don't let their money fall by the wayside. If they're willing to invest in you, then you make sure you're investing in yourself. That's really what the company is saying. When they do a match, they're like, I ain't investing in your future if you're not. That's what they're saying. They're like, why would I invest in your future if you're not investing in your own future? That's pretty much what they're saying. So if they do a match, go ahead and put your money where your mouth is and say, all right, you match up to this, and at least invest up to what they match so you can maximize that investment, and that'll go towards your future. Now, of course, as you learn more things inside of my econ, you'll realize that you can put certain money in different places to make your 401k grow better than the people that's around you. But just, make sure you start that track if you have not already. Automatic investing. So basically when you're doing this, it's automated. You're really not missing it because every time you get paid, if you have it set up, it's going to be coming out automatically. And it kind of positions you to be what's known as an automatic millionaire. You see, when the money is being invested automatically, then you're not missing it, you're not thinking about it, and before you know it, you look up and it's grown, especially if it's put in the right place. Not all 401ks are created equally. Not all 401ks are invested in things that have the brightest of future. So you want to get an understanding and plug into trainings like this just in case you can position your 401k to perform better than most. But automatic investing helps you because it's automated. You're not thinking about it. You don't miss it on with your life, but you're still planning for the future. And then last but not least, a minimum of 5% in contributions. And I kind of tied into this when I said you want to match what they're willing to match. So if they're willing to match up to 6%, then boom, there you go. But a minimum of 5% in contribution. 5% of what? 5% of your income. So if you earn $4,000 for that month, just giving an example, then you want to make sure that is 5% of that. So whatever that number is, I believe 5% of $4,000 is $200. I could be off on my math, but I think that's what it is. So you want to do whatever that percentage is. and make sure you're doing the minimum of the debt. Now, if 5% seems like a bit of a stretch, here's a tip. Start with 1%. Because sometimes 5% might seem like, I don't know if I can do away with 5%. I might miss it because I need every dime I'm bringing in. Start with 1% until you get used to not needing that 1%. Then grow it to 2%, then 3%. You see where I'm going? Until one day you look up, oh, I don't need this 5%. Or some people look at it like this. If you plan on getting a pay raise or increase in pay or promotion, etc., treat that promotion as if it never happens and continue to pay yourself whatever you were paying yourself. Just some other tidbits that you can consider doing as it relates to investing in step 3, using the company as leverage. And depending on your job, you may have a 403b, IRA, SEP, and just, get in where you fit in. But all of the things that we said still apply to these scenarios. And you want to get an understanding of where the money is going, just in case you can have a hand in it and better position your financial future for yourself versus leaving it in the hands of someone else.
All right, step number 4 is debt elimination. Now, this is what you got to understand. Debt robs you of your investment dollars. You must take it back. Must take it back. You want to eliminate all high interest consumer debt. Do not pay off your mortgage at this stage. This stage will help you to build your credit. Now, this is what you got to understand, because somebody on here is sitting back and they're wondering, why are we doing it in this order? Okay, so I want to first brush over that before we keep going. Step number 1 was increasing your cash flow as much as possible. Step number 2 was establishing your emergency fund of $3,000. Step number 3, hold on, let us mute out. Okay. Step number 3 was investing a minimum of 5%. Somebody's wondering, well, if I freed up all of my cash flow in step number 1, shouldn't debt elimination be step number 2? No, guys. No, kings and queens, for the simple reason of this. If you take all of your available cash flow and you dump it all on your debt, but you don't have an emergency fund, what you gonna do when you walk outside to that flat tire? I can tell you, you're gonna swipe that credit card and go right back into debt. Happens all the time. This is why when people are trying to become debt-free, they find themselves going in circles and feeling like it's impossible. It's because there's a right way of doing it and there's a wrong way of doing it, right? If you only free up your cash flow to pay off debt and you don't have any money set aside for your emergencies, and these little mini emergencies, they're super annoying, but they're inevitable, right? Why would you put yourself in that situation? Okay, let's erase that. What if we free up all of this additional cash flow in step number 1, and we put it all into investments first? No emergency fund, debt, we're just still making our minimum payments. Well, I want you to think about that. It's really the same situation, but a little bit worse. What are you gonna do in the case of an emergency? I'll tell you, you're gonna take that last deposit right back out of that 401k, right back out of that investment account, and you're gonna cover that emergency. Guys, I've been there before. That hurts you a couple of different ways. You put your money in there, and this is money that you were setting aside for retirement. So guess what happens when you take it out early? There's a penalty on it for taking out your money early. It's kind of jacked up, but if you do it the right way, you won't run into that. I didn't know that. I was just taking money right on back out of my 401k in my 20s. Had no idea, right? So you have to make sure you're following the steps as is. Free up your cash flow. Get that emergency fund established as soon as possible, y'all. I even tell people, this isn't in the slides, if you got to sell stuff around your house that you no longer use, that you no longer need, marketplace, been on and popping for a while now, do what you have to do to increase your cash flow as much as you possibly can to get that little $3,000 out the way, right? We're going to talk about it like it's little. Get that little $3,000 out the way. Then we can move on and we can start building our future. That's why you want to start investing. You want to start investing before you knock out all of your debt. Because I mean, we just got to be honest. Different people have different amounts of debt. You want to just be paying on your debt and doing absolutely nothing as it pertains to your future, when studies and research show you need 10 times what you're making annually on your job to comfortably retire? Well, that doesn't make sense, right? So you want to put a little bit aside for that, and that'll be building simultaneous to you paying off debt.
Well said. Let's proceed. Step 5, max out retirement. So now you're in a good flow. You're in a good swing of things. You have your cash flow in order. You have some type of order of operation. Things are starting to feel automated. You have a nice foundation that you're landing. Now, you want to max out your retirement fund, because this positions you to have a quality retirement. In many cases, it can position you to have an early retirement. So it says maximize the legal amount towards your retirement. And the reason why they say legal amount is because as follows, and this is just for the year 2021. In other words, it's subject to change. Annual contribution limits as it relates to the 401k, 403b, 457, thrift savings plans. The max amount that you can put in there is $19,500. Now, if you're able to max that out, then we recommend maxing it out. Then as it relates to these 50 plus catch-up contributions, that's basically for the person who's of the age of 50 or older and they are playing catch-up. So typically this number is lower, and I'll show you what I mean, but they give them the ability to catch up and put a little more in, and that's $6,500. For the IRA, it's $6,000 for the year 2021. And then there's a 50 plus catch-up contribution of an extra $1,000. For the simple, it's $13,500. Then they got the 50 plus catch-up contribution for $3,000. What I want to point out is the 50 plus, because they know they have limits of what people can do throughout life, but they know at the age of 50, people are really thinking about, wow, am I going to be in the position to retire? And if so, am I going to be able to retire comfortably? Or is it looking like I'm going to have a retirement job? So they try to give them a little bit of wiggle room and give them the ability to be able to invest more to play catch up. That's why it's important to have some level of financial literacy, so you know you're not just limited to these categories in terms of your investment. However, it is good to know what areas you do have more wiggle room, what areas you can max out. So now you're putting money in multiple places and positioning yourself to have a diversified portfolio and a quality retirement at the end of the day. And retirement, as you know, you probably heard us say before, it's not based on age, it's based on money. So when invested right, you can actually position yourself to where your job is an option and you can retire when you deem necessary, but at least get in position to start making sure your retirement is looking like it's going to be a quality one, because nothing is worse than getting to a certain stage in life and you've worked your job and you've given them a lot of your youthful years just to get to a retirement state, and you don't have the energy you used to have, you don't have the ambition you used to have, you don't have the drive that you used to have, but they expect you to be able to live off of less money than you were earning while you were working that job. That's why it's important to plan early. That's why it's important to be proactive. It's never too early to think about retirement, and also never too late. So if you find yourself close to 50 or older than 50, it's not too late. There are a lot of options that are still out there. In fact, we're going to share some towards the end of this video that may be some to consider, but nonetheless, just get on track so you can have a quality retirement and max out your retirement in step number 5. Step number 6.
All right. Step number 6, you guys, is building a full emergency fund. All right. That $3,000, that little $3,000 that we talked about earlier, that is considered to be your mini emergency fund. But when you make it to step number 6, this is your full emergency fund. A full emergency fund covers you in the event of a catastrophic loss, such as job loss or medical expenses. All right. It is 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. I want to scratch out that 3 so bad. It's 6 months worth of living expenses. Should build faster because you've eliminated debt. That's what you got to understand. You eliminated debt in like step number 4. These days, you might need 6 to 12 months of living expenses. You guys, this is what I want you to understand, because somebody on here is thinking, why in the world do I need 6 months of my living expenses saved, right? That's a lot of money. You guys, it's because you literally never know what life is going to throw at you.
It's because of 2020.
It's because of 2020.
They know.
Who
These
would've
days you
predicted?
never know.
Who would have predicted the
Might need more.
pandemic? I was going to give y'all some other examples. Well, who seen that one coming, right? Who seen all of the layoffs, the job losses, the people losing their income, right? That's just one side of it. So often people experience medical emergencies. You go to the doctor, you get, you might be diagnosed with something that may make you take a step back. Ladies, I'll tell you my example. I was pregnant with twins, right? Who would have even known I would have not went my whole 9 months and only went 6.5 months? Actually delivered them at 26.5 weeks. Now, if you guys know anything about premature birth, having them 2.5 months early means them being in the hospital for 2.5 months. Okay? So with that being said, think about all of the people with medical emergencies like that, where you have to be in a hospital for months at a time. You don't want to be thinking about money. You do not want to also take on the stress of financial struggles, right? When we were going through this, we were literally, when we were told 2.5 months stay for the twins, it was like, well, y'all gonna be seeing me for 2.5 months. Of course, I'm not going, right? So we were able to stay in the hospital as well for that 2.5 months. And guys, it was extremely, extremely stressful. Seeing your kids with all the tubes and everything hooked up to them. But I can honestly say, because of my econ, during that 2.5 month stay, money was not an issue for us whatsoever. We had already become debt free, following this same 8-step plan that we're showing you right now. We had already become debt free. We had a year's worth of living expenses set aside. Our credit was looking good. Money, no issue whatsoever. Emotionally, that's a whole nother game, right? I remember having a friend who went through the exact same thing. She was pregnant. She ended up having her baby around 6 months, so 3 months early. However, her situation was so much different, and I really hated it for her because as soon as she had her baby, she was trying to go back to work. And I'm not talking about after her maternity leave was over. I mean, she was trying to go back to work a couple of weeks later because she needed the money. I'm like, girl, that ain't how that's supposed to go. She was stressing herself out at work on her lunch breaks, driving to the hospital, visiting her baby. And her sole reason for doing that is because she didn't have the money. She needed the money. So guys, at the end of the day, if you follow this 8-step plan right now, you can be in position, honestly, for whatever it is that life may throw at you. You can be at least financially prepared.
That's right. And like they said in that last bullet point, these days you might need 6 to 12 months of living expenses. They should have said these days you never know when you might need more. Step 7, pay off mortgage, buy a home, because you've already positioned yourself and flooded the investments and things of that nature. So they're like, all right, now you're in a position, you've done certain things, you got 6 to 12 months living expenses in the event that the job pulled the rug from underneath you. I know our scenario was a little bit different with the kids being born early, but what's not abnormal is people losing their jobs, people being fired, people being replaced, jobs being lost due to certain things, jobs being shut down because they didn't have the cash flow, and then 2020 wiped the whole job out. So that's not an uncommon thing. So you already got certain things in place. Now you can aim towards paying off their mortgage, because as it relates to the mortgage, sometimes it doesn't always make sense to double down on it right away. You want to get some other things in place first, then you can double down on the mortgage, basically, because typically around that time, the interest rate is a little bit lower. It's not as high, when you have a mortgage. And in addition to that, sometimes the mortgage is growing in its equity. So you don't want to necessarily pay it off right away. So we put it in step 7. So you are now in the position to pay off mortgage, or if rent, you're in a position to buy a home. If that's something you want to do, you will always need a dwelling, somewhere to live. You will always need that, hands down. Home ownership is a part of wealth building, especially when you buy right. And I'm speaking directly to royalty. This is not already in this list. But when I say buy right, because a lot of people bought homes this year, and there was a lot of people buying homes because they were like, yeah, the homes are selling so fast, you just got to get them because they running out. But they were buying the home overpriced.
Yeah.
So, and the realtors were eating good because they selling these overpriced homes because it was based on supply and demand. So if the demand is high and the supply is low, they can sell it how they want to sell it. And people were willing to pay it. But what's going to end up happening is, and I don't wish this, but this is just how it works. What's going to end up happening is when the demand for buying homes diminishes and the supply grows, then the home that they bought winds up going down a little bit in value. So now they owe more on the home than the home is worth. So now that's upside down. They don't have any equity in it. They owe more than what it's worth. So now you got to pay on top of pay just to get ahead and hope to have some equity. So when I say buy a home right, I'd rather you buy a home in a market that doesn't have as much demand, or find a home that's off market. So when you buy the home, you buy it with some equity. Just my personal recommendation. And that's how we did. Now, in many cases, you might do that, and you might have to do some extra work or whatever the case may be. But if you buy into the house and it has a ton of equity, when you're thinking wealth building, now that helps with the fact that home ownership is a part of wealth building, because you already solidify some equity in the home. That's a whole nother conversation, but I want you to be thinking on those terms. So at this point, you are in position to quickly pay off your mortgage because of all of these things. Queen, what you got?
Yeah, you're probably wondering, well, how can I pay off my mortgage quickly? But guys, I really want y'all to think about this. This is step number 7. So since you've made it to step number 7, think about all of the things you've accomplished if you just follow the steps in the order that we're going over. So by the time you make it to step 7, you have a $3,000 emergency fund. You're already investing towards your retirement and you're maxing it out every year. You're already debt free and you've already been building your credit.
And a 6 to 12 month.
And you already have the full 6 to 12 month living expenses. So you got money stashed, you have no debt. That's why when you make it to step number 7, you're in the position to buy a home, or you're in the position to start doubling down and paying off your mortgage. For everybody on here that found us like through TikTok, or you were interested more so in the credit, these 8 steps apply to you as well, because you have to understand, as you're getting into position to buy a home, you're gonna need money. They're looking at your money, they're looking at your credit. They're going to look at your debt to income ratio, but you're on step number 7. You don't have any debt, right? So if you follow the plan as is, you're going to get the lowest interest rate. Closing on a home is going to be nothing. Some of y'all heard our testimony. We were able to close on our home in less than 30 days because our credit was there and because our cash flow was exactly where it needed to be following this 8-step plan.
Absolutely. Step 8. Invest beyond retirement. And I got a lot for you. I don't want to keep you too long, because some of the stuff we're going to talk about is tapping into step number 8. But let me make sure I get everybody muted out. All right, perfect. All right. So step number 8 is investing beyond retirement. So what does that look like? You are now in a position to invest above and beyond your retirement account. So we used to say this was the time where you ball out. You buy everything that you can in order to position yourself to have a quality retirement, or possibly of an early retirement, because you got stocks, you got bonds, you got real estate, you got gold, silver. Now, we also got crypto on here, mutual funds, ETFs, annuities, and other businesses, Forex, because it's a lot of different investment vehicles that you can be using. In our group, you're going to hear us talk more about ETFs for specific reasons. And you're going to hear us wiggle in some crypto due to the fact that it's certain opportunities inside of crypto that have not been seen before. It's a lot of times where people are able to invest in crypto and get returns as if they were already an accredited investor. Not sure if you know how this operates, but if you're an accredited investor, this typically means that you have $1 million net worth and you probably make $250,000 a year. And you get deals on certain investments before they even come out to the market, meaning that you get an early advantage. So by the time they do an IPO or they do initial public offering to where everybody else can invest in it, that's the time when the people who are accredited investors is making a ton of money because they bought it when it was pennies, when nobody else knew about it. Well, with crypto, it's allowing you to be like them to where you can get inside on the early end, and that way when it runs up, you're already in on the front end. So it opens up so many opportunities that I don't want us as royalty to sleep on it. Yeah, it has its risk. Yeah, it's volatile, but it's money that's made in volatility. Yeah, it has its things that, aren't perfect. Yeah, some things, sometimes people have lost money, but people lose money in regular investments as well, stocks as well. Even if it's somebody managing your accounts, they have lost money. So it's a lot of things that go into stocks and investment as well that you got to be mindful of. You can always lose money, which is why you want to invest with money that you can stand to lose. You don't want to, put your all into it. However, you want to be strategic and do your research and make some calculated risks in the areas of investing in any of these areas. So these are the things that you want to consider investing into. And I like to spend some time on ETFs because I know most of us don't just necessarily have the time, or most people who are just getting into investment, they're not trying to watch their investments like a hawk. They want to put it somewhere safe, add money to it from time to time, and they want to know that their investment has a potential future, meaning that they believe that as long as they keep their money there, it's a future in that thing that they invested in, which is why I like to focus on certain sectors or industries in the areas of ETFs. And I'll give a couple here later, but just understand that step 8 is about balling out on the investments. And I want you to get in the mindset of playing the long game, not to get rich quick, not a what can my money do in a week. That may happen in some spaces, in some investments, especially crypto, but think more long term. Long term is 1 to 5 years. And then if you got to recalibrate and switch it up, that's usually you want to be thinking long term, because the person who is in and playing the long game versus the get rich quick and ready to sell as soon as the stock goes down, they usually lose. But if you're thinking on the long end, most of the time, stocks tend to rise over time. So you just want to think the long game, not get rich quick, because we're talking about wealth. Wealth is a long game. Wealth is a team sport, and it's a long game. So you use the buy and hold strategy on good mutual funds and ETFs. And my preference is ETFs. Mutual funds are very similar. Basically, it's a bucket of stocks that allows you to automatically be diversified, because it puts your money in multiple companies versus you putting all your eggs in one basket versus you just buying one investment. ETFs does the same thing, but with ETFs, you can invest in sectors and certain industries. And I get into some of those industries to consider as it relates to where to put your money in ETFs. Now, it's lower volatility when you're playing the long game. Yeah, it's volatility in investing, but the volatility decreases when you're playing the long game. Less stress because you're putting your money there. You're not expecting to get anything out of it in a month, in a few months, in a week. You're looking at it from a long-term perspective. So like I said, you want to think long-term, a year plus, 5 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be, and then recalibrate if necessary. Tax advantages on capital gains. So there are tax advantages that come with when your money makes money. When your money makes money, it's taxed less than if you work for the money. So that's another reason why you want to make sure you're investing, because your money is taxed less when it earns money. And it's easy to do when you play the long game, especially if you find something that you researched, you looked into, you believe in the future of it, you put your money there, and now you're able to kick your feet up because you believe in the future of the market. And I'll show you an example of what I mean. And if you were on last week, then you got a glimpse of exactly what I mean. So here's a brief summary. Investing does not have to be complicated. Let's wrap your mind around that. It doesn't have to be complicated. And if you're hearing it from me, I don't get into all of some of the details that some people try to do in order to overcomplicate it and sometimes try to confuse you. I like to keep it real simple, because that's how I understand it in the way I determine when I make my investments or moves. So I want it to be real simplistic so you can look at it and have your own thought process. And then if you want to expound and learn some of the technicals, etc., cool. But I like to keep it real basic because that's how it works for me, and I think it'll work for you as well. And you want to build a foundation. There's an order in which you should build a financial stable portfolio. Insurance, although it was not discussed in this presentation, you must protect your investments, and insurance is the way to do so. Life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance. So you're basically insuring the golden egg, or you're insuring the goose. You're the goose that lays the golden egg. So you want to insure yourself. And insurance puts you in a position to where you buy wealth before you can build wealth. A lot of these steps we just talked about was you building wealth. But we know tomorrow's not promised. So you want to buy wealth just in case you don't get a chance to build wealth and go through all of these steps. So that's why it's important to have some life insurance, because if anything happens prematurely, you know, something happens, you at least have some insurance that covers certain things and, you know, gives the family some funds in your absence. So that's why it's important to have. But in the meantime, you want to be building wealth like never before, because you want to position yourself to have both insurance and a whole portfolio. Financial advisor, choose a financial professional to help you with the rest of your financial needs. Interview 3 professionals before choosing. So they threw that in there just because, like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving financial advice. And there's some good people out there, but what I recommend is that you at least get a bit of an understanding about investing for yourself. So that way you know what to listen for, you know what questions to ask, because you can have the best financial advisor in the world, but if you don't know what questions to ask, you don't know what he's saying or she's saying, then you could be doing yourself a disservice and it might not be the best move for you. So at least get an understanding. Even if the first time you hear it, it doesn't make sense, just keep pushing through until you have an understanding. And, you know, a good financial advisor will educate you as well, so you have a better understanding. Now, I'm going to transition out of this. If you have any questions, put it in the chat. But since we're talking about assets and asset accumulation, what I want to do is go into some other forms of investments that I mentioned and that was on the list. And I said some of the ones that we'll, you know, speak on more so will be in the areas of ETFs. And ETFs is exchange traded funds. Basically, it's a group of stock that you can invest in that allows you to have your money diversified right off of the rip. A lot of the experts have already done the homework on the investments that are inside the ETF. So they've done some of the hard work for you, and how they operate is if the company is not performing that's inside the ETF, then they can remove it and replace it with another company that actually is performing. So I'm gonna give a couple of industries to consider investing in, just some considerations. If you hopping on the live, just give you some value that I believe may have a future that you can consider investing in, and it's a safe way to invest. And one of them, and I gave a couple of them on the last training. If you didn't catch the last week's training, then the replay is available. If you want it, let us know and we'll show you how to access it. But these are a couple of different ones. But one ETF that I pulled up is in the electric vehicle sector. Now, I'm pretty sure, you know, by now, you know that the electric vehicle sector, that industry is growing, but it's still new. Everybody's still pumping gas. So it's still very, very new. However, you're starting to see more electric vehicles. You're starting to see more companies saying they're offering electric vehicles. You're starting to see more electrical stations being set up so people can, you know, charge up their vehicle. But it's just at the very beginning, which means that this industry is likely to have a great future. But if you get in on the front end and you invest in that area, then you're likely to reap some good rewards. You're likely to get a solid return on your investment. Just likely. No guarantees and anything, but I like to look at it of what I believe is yet to come based on human, you know, just how humans operate, how technology operates. And this seems like it has a pretty decent future, in my opinion. And this ETF, the stock symbol for this is DRIV. So short for drive. DRIV. That's the stock symbol if you want to look it up. At the time of this recording, the stock price is currently sitting at $28.11 at the time of this recording. And I have the holdings held up right here, but let me click out for a second. All right, perfect. So this site is known as etfdb.com, and it's a site where you can pull up and get a glimpse of all of the ETFs that exist. You can search sectors that you're interested in, click around, see which ones they have and, you know, what the prices are, and see what the holdings are. The holdings basically is the top 15 holdings. They typically have more, but the top 15 show up when you click on holdings. As you know, the leader of the electric vehicle space is Tesla. So of course, any electric vehicle ETF is likely to have Tesla in there. And it shows you the percentage to which they have that particular stock inside their holdings. So Tesla is in there, and it's more than just electric vehicles. It's people who are also incorporated in electric vehicles. So anytime you see Alphabet, that means Google. So Google, has their hand in it from a technology standpoint. Nvidia, same way. Microsoft, same way. Toyota is entering and has entered the electric vehicle space. Apple as well. Intel technology, Qualcomm technology, GE, definitely in the electric vehicle. General Motors is entering the electric motor space. Ford, so you can just kind of scroll down and see what companies will be included in this particular ETF. And it's definitely some companies that you're familiar with, but just understand that the ETF electric vehicles have a possible future. So you might want to write that one down and consider grabbing you a piece of it to see if you can get it to grow over the next, because the ETF, the electric vehicle space, you bound to see that grow over the next 5 years. That's why I said think long term instead of just thinking of, okay, what's going to pop this year. No, think long term. That way you can keep adding money. You can add money every week, every month, every 2 weeks, and just let it grow. And next thing you know, this stock price has gone from $28 to $98, and you tripled your money. The stock has grown from 28 to 128. You quadrupled your money. So just think in terms of long-term in industries that you believe have a future. Now I'm gonna show one other thing, and this is something that I like to look at when I'm looking at this site, this ETFDB. Like I said, I'm gonna keep it simple. Show you the stock symbol, the stock price, what companies they're holding, and then I do like to look at the performance. Now, over the past year, this ETF has done 52% in the past year, or the first year return, basically, 52%. 3-year return has been 115%. So if a person was investing in this 3 years ago, they would have already doubled their money in some, 115%. Now, I like it when I see this. I know this says not applicable, but it's because they haven't been in the game long enough to produce a 5-year return. I like it when I see this. Even sometimes I like it if I believe in the sector enough when I see that it's an NA right here on a 3-year return. And sometimes when it's an NA right here on a 1-year return, so you can participate in the run up. So I do like it when I see it. But for this one, it hadn't had the 5-year run up. Now, if you were on the last training, it was some that we showed that had a 300% right here, 500%, which means that this has the potential to grow. It still has a lot of potential, a lot of room to grow. So when you see the NA, don't get, alarmed as if it's too early. No, this is an opportunity for you to participate in the run up. So when they do have the numbers that qualify, then you'll be in good shape. Now, let's transition to another ETF. I want you to think about the blockchain. The crypto space is growing. We're going to talk about crypto, but it's other ways you can invest in crypto as well outside of just buying crypto. Crypto sits on what's known as blockchain. So pretty much blockchain is pretty much what the internet is to websites. A website can't exist, like a domain cannot exist if it wasn't for the internet. So you got to have the internet in order for the domain, the website to be able to exist, whether it's zoom.us, facebook.com, etfdb.com. If it wasn't for the internet, these sites wouldn't be able to be showing in front of you right now. So the blockchain, what that does is that's what the crypto attaches to. Blockchain is what allows crypto to exist. So if you invest in the sector or the industry of the blockchain, then as the blockchain becomes more dominant, as it's doing, you get to grow with it as well. So the blockchain ETF, this stock symbol is BKCH. You might want to write that down. BKCH. The price on this one is $25 at the time of this recording, $25. But you might want to write it down and just kind of look into it because the blockchain technology hasn't even begun to, really become mainstream just yet. So a lot of people talking about it, but it hasn't become mainstream. Now, on this one, as it relates to the holdings, it may be some companies you're familiar with, but it might be a lot that you're not familiar with because the blockchain technology space is very, very new. Marathon, you may be familiar with Coinbase, which is one of the original platforms to buy cryptocurrency, and we'll talk more about that. I'm familiar with Riot, but you can just kind of look down and see. A lot of these companies you may or may not be familiar with, but just because you don't understand it or you're not familiar with it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a potential future. Just get to know some of these companies, but know that the people who put these different companies inside this ETF has done their homework. And if anyone is not performing, then they get kicked out and replaced with another company that is performing. Now, let's look at performance. Speaking of performance. Now, this one hasn't been around long enough at all. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, hold on. They don't have a 1 year return, a year to date return, or none of that. So I went over to Yahoo Finance just to kind of say, okay, let me look up this company, this Global X Blockchain BKCH. So I went over here and I looked it up and I was like, all right, let me click around and see what's going on. So I had the 1 day return, but I went ahead and clicked on max. And this is Yahoo Finance, finance.yahoo.com. So I clicked on max. And if you look at this chart right here, you will see that this particular ETF didn't launch until July of 21, July of this year. So it's still very, very, very new. Now, this may be too new for some people to invest in, or this may be an opportunity. So you take it how you feel. But basically, I just wanted to include this because I know that blockchain has a future, and it's one of those stocks that is on the front end if it tends to have that run up of 50%, 100%, 300% over the course of the next 5 years. So I just want to consider. And the last ETF that I wanted to share, well, no, I'm not even going to share this one. We already talked about blockchain, so I'm going to X that one out. I just wanted to show you those two, the electric vehicles as well as the blockchain, and then show you basically that last blockchain ETF is brand new. Now, I want to talk about crypto slightly just because crypto is an area that is growing, and it's an area that we have to at least gain an understanding about if we don't already. And if you're already familiar with crypto, then I'm preaching to the choir. But, if you want to look into a crypto and figure out, okay, what can I learn about the crypto space? Who's over it? What is their mission? It's important to know at least a couple of different sites, but I'm gonna just give you one just to make it simple as it relates to your research, because a lot of times people will come out with a crypto, and if it doesn't have any utility or use case, basically, you never know what it's going to do. Sometimes people rally around certain cryptos and it might not initially have a utility, but over time, somebody develops a good use case for their crypto and it makes it stick around longer. I know a lot of people have been talking about Dogecoin and Shiba, and I have some of both, so I definitely have reaped some rates of return in those areas, but I'm not going to talk about that right now because right now it's at a hype moment. You want to not necessarily hype as in not valuable, but when everybody is talking about it, that's usually not the best time to buy. That's when other people are getting profits from it. You want to catch it when it's low key, nobody's talking about it, or when it has gone down and you buy the dip, meaning that you buy it at a lower price because it minimizes your risk for one, and it increases the chance of your money multiplying. So I kind of want to give you an example of what I mean with this crypto that I'm about to show you now. Now, this site is a site that you want to write down in the area of just looking at certain crypto, researching it, because you can click around and kind of just learn and just study the world of crypto, which is very new to everybody, still very, 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 very new to me, but I reap some rates of returns and I would feel horrible not sharing certain things with you all. But this site is CoinMarketCap. CoinMarketCap.com is the site that you want to look up, and you can usually type in this search box here, and you can look up just about anything, any stock symbol, and it'll pull it up, let you know some details about it. It'll also let you know what, where you can purchase the coin itself. So, this is a good site to make note of if you're buying crypto. Now, I'm gonna show you this crypto because I believe it has a future. And this is Nervous Network. And the symbol for this crypto is CKB. I just grabbed some of this today. I knew about it, about a week or so ago, and, did a little more digging, but I grabbed some of it today because I believe it has a future. Now, as you can see, the price of this is a penny. When you're dealing with crypto, a lot of times a penny is still worth something because it's some that's way less than a penny. You spend $1 and you got 100,000 of them. That's sometimes how it works. However, it's beauty in that because of the possibility of a rate of return. And I'm gonna give you a brief example. So this one, and I'll give you some of what it's about, but I just want to make a point real quick before, because I don't want to keep you too long. We already passed the top of the hour. Now, this one is 1 penny. If you were to invest in this, in order to double your money, this 1 penny or this particular crypto has to go to a valuation of 2 pennies, and you've doubled your money. If you want to 4x your money, this crypto has to go to 4 pennies, and you quadrupled your money. So I'm gonna go through a quick run through. Let's just look at, I'm gonna look at this chart real quick. And this is what I mean. Like, this is the current price point right down here. It's at 1 penny. So it's not at the highest point that it has been. So when you're buying a stock or crypto, you want to look at some of the low points and consider that a good entry, a good time to buy when it's at some of the low points. Not at the high points, because it's somebody who might have saw this and saw that it went up to 4 cents. We're talking about 4 cents. So it's, but if you put too much money in there and it drops down to 1 penny, you can still lose a lot because it's based on percentages. But somebody bought it up here and then it went all the way down here, so they lost money. But you want to look at where it's been and know, okay, it's probably going to go back to that 4% at some point, or that 4% at some point, if you believe in the crypto. And that's why it's important to do your homework on the crypto and, get a part of the network so you can understand where it may be going. But this is a good spot to buy, because it's already gone higher than this a couple of different times. So when I say not every time is a good time to buy, it's not. If I was to look at Shiba right now, you will probably be buying at close to a high. But I want you to understand that just because it's a penny doesn't mean it can't grow and you can't double, triple, quadruple your money. It actually gives you an opportunity to grow it more. Because here's what I mean. I said if this penny crypto grew to 2 pennies, you've doubled your money. If it grew to 4 pennies, you quadrupled your money. Now, that's CKB, Nervous Network, and I'll show you what this is about so you can make an understanding or decision of whether or not this is something you want to write down, put on your watch list, and consider. But let's type in the crypto that everybody is very, very familiar with, the original, Bitcoin. And this is nothing against Bitcoin, because I know that Bitcoin it's looked upon now as like digital gold. It's a place to store value. A lot of people are like, all right, I don't want to put my money in the bank. Let me hold it in Bitcoin, give it some potential to possibly grow, but I'm probably not going to lose all my money because it has proven itself. But it's $58,000 per coin, and it changes rapidly because it's a volatile market. When I looked at this about an hour ago, it was 57. So Bitcoin, goes up and down, but it's been holding its ground at certain points. Earlier this year, I think it went down to maybe 30,000, it was 29,000. And it's rallied back up to almost 60,000. But this is what I want to point out, just so you can understand how I think about certain things. If you buy into crypto, in order for your money to double, based on the price point now, 58,000, let's just round up to 60,000. In order for your money to double, Bitcoin has to go up to 120,000. Not to say that it won't, because some experts say that it'll go to 100,000 this year. Not to say that it won't. But when you think about some of the coins that people might not be talking about, that's a lower cost, I want you to think, is it more likely for Bitcoin to go to 120,000, or is it more likely for a company that has very solid potential, solid leaders, and a group of people, a company, a crypto that you believe in? Which one is more likely to happen? 60,000 turning into 100,000, or 1 penny turning into 2 pennies? Both of them double your money, but one of them, the entry rate was a lot less. So just something to think about in terms of doubling and multiplying your money. Sometimes the coins, and this goes for stocks too. Sometimes the companies that have a high price point, the likeliness of you doubling your money is, it'll take a longer amount of time. But sometimes you may be able to double your money with a smaller priced item, not cheap, but smaller priced item, just because of the percentages and what it'll take to grow it to the next level. So I just want you to consider those things. But to get back on the CKB, which is the nervous network. I'm gonna type it back in, and I'm gonna show you one last thing, and we're gonna wrap up. And this is homework, and I'm gonna give you a couple of links that I want y'all to consider using if you haven't already tapped into crypto. But the nervous network basically is CKB is the stock symbol, and it's sitting at 1 penny right now. But this is what it's about. So I just went to, and you want to do this for any coin you're considering. You want to click, look around, see what it's about, see if you think it has a future, see if it has any potential. If you don't believe in it or you don't have a connection to it, don't bother. It's another one I wanted to show you that's in the fintech industry, but I may do that another time because we're into financial literacy with my econ. I think it's a good one for you to consider, but I'll probably do that another time just so it's not too late. But this is what this particular crypto is about. So Nervous Network is a blockchain platform for universal applications. And basically they're saying the Nervous Network is an open source public blockchain ecosystem and collection of protocols, creating a foundation for a universal internet-like public network beyond interoperable towards universal application. So this is the paragraph that I'm gonna mainly highlight, and then we'll wrap up. Early internet applications lived on segregated networks, needing different ways to access and interact. Now, in today's decentralized world, we again see this segregation into different ecosystems with poor interoperability. So what they're doing is they're trying to be what the internet is to crypto. When people are buying crypto, it is kind of scattered out. You got all these different places and platforms you can buy crypto from. You know, a lot of people are making their own coin using Ethereum, but it's a lot of scatteredness going on. They're trying to be the web that connects them all, kind of like the internet. So it gives people access to any asset, any blockchain, operate apps from any wallet or solution, code with flexibility. So they're trying to bridge the gap. So they're trying to serve a big need, and this could possibly be one of the cryptos that people sleep on that actually end up doing something. And right now it's a penny. So I just wanted to throw it out there because I grabbed some and I didn't want to not share it, and then it ended up being a home run, or at least something that can double up, quadruple up, and position other people to profit off of it. So I didn't want to not share it with royalty. If anything I think of that I think will be of value, I'm gonna share it here first. Now, I'm gonna put in the chat a couple of links, because if you do not already have, if you're not already investing, or at least have a account open, of course you want to go through the PCP as we stated, but I at least want you to at least get in the process of knowing how opening up investment accounts look, having your own crypto account set up. So I'm gonna put a couple of links in down below just so you can have an understanding of it. One of the platforms that I use to buy stocks and ETFs is as follows. It's a Webull app. That's what it's called, Webull. But if you use this link and you decide to invest at least $100, you'll get 2 stocks free. So the first link says 2 stocks free. You'll see it when I put it in there. I haven't clicked it. I just typed it in. The second one I want you to consider getting access to. If you don't already have any crypto, that means you probably don't have a Coinbase. So I want you to click on this link to open up your Coinbase account. And it says try crypto. So this is like your first time. You might be just getting into crypto. So I want you to use this app to get access to Coinbase, and you'll get some perks if you use this link as well. And then last but not least, this is definitely when you're actually getting into the world of crypto, but I want you to at least know that it exists. It's a platform known as KuCoin, and Coinbase doesn't always have all of the crypto. Like, for example, this Nervous Network crypto is not available on Coinbase. However, it is available on KuCoin. And in order to get access to that particular crypto, you have to sometimes go through a different platform other than Coinbase. So it'd be good to at least know about this one before it's too late, especially if you're new to the game. So these are the 3 links that I want you to consider looking at. Hopefully when I type these in, they are clickable. And then I'm gonna look and see if we have any questions. Let me know if those links are clickable. I may have to add the HTTP in front of it. Now I'm gonna look and see if we got any questions. We're gonna open up and let they look clickable on your end. Okay, because it's not clickable on my end, but maybe because I'm the one that typed it. Not clickable. Somebody just said, okay, perfect.
It's clickable for me.
Is it? Okay, let me try this.
Apple device,
Apple, okay, so just in case of Apple, Android.
yeah, all three of them.
Okay.
are clickable.
All right, I'm put it in a different way. Just in case it makes it clear. All right, so this ought to make it clickable for everybody, because now it's clickable for me as well. So hold on to those links verbatim, just like they look. Don't capitalize anything, you know, and send it, copy it, paste it, send it to a text message for yourself. And I probably should have put what each one was. But the first one is Webull. It's an app where you can buy stocks, ETFs, etc. They incorporate some crypto. Then the second one is Coinbase.
I'm typing it up, keep going.
And then the third one is Qcoin. So that's Kucoin. And that platform tends to have way more crypto than a Coinbase. So these are some I want you to get familiar with. And that's why it's important to attend trainings, because it may be times where I dive a little bit deeper as I grow and learn more. And I want to share it with you all so you can have a heads up before everybody's talking about it. See, I'm more interested in the crypto that nobody's talking about. Nobody, is really talking about the nervous network at all. So I'm more interested in it. Then when I start digging into what they're trying to do, I really became a little bit more bullish about it. And then it's another fintech one that's similar. Nobody's talking about it. When I grabbed Shiba, nobody was really talking about it. Then it, started blowing up and creating some success for people. And I was like, dang, I should have bought more, and that tends to happen. But nonetheless, I still had a good entry point and multiply some money. So that's what it's all about. But I just wanted to share these things in conjunction to the 8-step formula to financial freedom, how my econ basically positions you to take all of your discretionary income and multiply, grow it so you can be building wealth, and how these investments and everything else go hand in hand with it at the end. All right, Queen, do you see any questions on your end? And we can unmute in case somebody has. Okay, I see Greg said Nervous is like a standardization organization that will allow all crypto blockchain to work together. That's major in that space. Exactly. So Greg sounds like he already knows up. He knows the potential in it. So yeah, absolutely. Greg, I'm interested to know, have you already heard of Nervous? You already familiar with the Nervous network? So we might have to have some other conversations. But let me know, Greg, if you're already familiar with the Nervous network. Now's an opportunity. I know we wrapped. Okay. So yeah, write it down, look into it, man. It might be, some we all eat on. I'll just say that.
Keep unmuted.
Is it? Maybe my volume is down. I don't hear anything. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close out the recording. I'm gonna end the recording and then open up for questions. So hang tight. This concludes the Royalty Movement meeting for tonight.